Hey guys, Andy Goblin from Andy Goblin Fishing. Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk everything crappie and everything bass fishing. We give you a lot of tips and tricks that's helped me catch fish for the past 40 years, and we'll also throw in a little bit of tournament coverage. So thanks for tuning in. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Thank you guys very much. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about flipping and pitching a tube bait. This is one of my favorite baits to flip and to pitch. I've been doing this for several years. It became popular whenever Denny Breyer won the Classic back in, I think, 1998. But even before that, in the mid-90s, some of the guys in the Ozarks, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma area, were flipping and pitching it. A little bit different than they are now. A lot of them were flipping and pitching on 12 to 14 pound test line, 6.5 to 7 foot. Rod back then was a worm rod, 12, 14 pound test line, flipping a finesse tube. Back then we were flipping it basically on the old HP hooks, 1/8 to 1/4 ounce weight. Some of the guys like Jerry Williams down in Conway, Arkansas. Of course, Doug Garrett, of course, that won the Mega Bucks with it. So I've been flipping it and pitching it for a long, long time. Nowadays, of course, we're getting a little more advanced. We're tungsten weights, better hooks, bigger tubes. Speaking of the tubes that I flip are fairly old. These are the original Garrett Mega tubes. Back then, they were just called a Mega tube. As you can see, this one here is a crawdad pattern one. I'll show you how I rig my tube. The first thing that I do on my tubes is, I stretch it out a little bit. These tubes are fairly hard. They're made of a lot of rubber, so I tend to stretch them out a little bit. Of course, I go through my tails, try to keep my tails separated a little bit. Sometimes these weren't cut that great. As you can tell, you can see here me pulling, some of them apart. Here and there, you can see it coming apart. But I really like to do that, kind of, rough the tube up a little bit, get the salt going in it, make sure the tails are nice and limber and spread out and really got a lot of action to them. Now I do rig mine on my flipping rod, generally 20 pound test, sometimes 25. As you can see here, this is just a 7 foot 6 inch flipping stick, 20 pound test fluorocarbon line, higher speed reel, 6.3 to 1 to 7 to 1. Some guys might use higher, it seems to work good for me. This is a 5/16 ounce tungsten sinker. This is a Eagle Claw Trokar hook. This is a 5/0. As you can see, I do tie it with a snell knot. It's got the little keeper on the back, as you can see right there, to hold the tube. I do peg my weight sometimes. Sometimes I do not peg my weight. When I'm just flipping in sparse cover like around stumps and rocks, I do not like to peg my weight. I want that bait to glide, so I want my weight to separate a little bit. When I do need to peg my weight, if I'm flipping sawdust piles or things like that, the little pegget strips seem to work real well, or the bobber stops. Of course, back in the day, we were rigging them with toothpicks shoved up in and broke off, but things have changed a little bit now. Weight size, I'll go anywhere from a 1/4 ounce weight clear up to an ounce, ounce and a half. As you can see, this here is there's an ounce weight that I flip when I'm flipping in some of the sawdust piles. My go-to weight is generally anywhere between a 1/4 and 3/8. Sometimes a half, but generally the 1/4 to 3/8 seems to do the best with me. Sometimes I use a rattle. If the water is really dirty, I'll use a rattle. As you can see, these here are just take one out of the package so you can see it a little bit. It's just a tube rattle. Just I don't know if you can see that. It's a cylinder type with a rattle in it. I use that one. These are some of the old ones that we were using back whenever the Mega Tube first came out, back in the all mid-90s. It's just an aluminum rattle. Here, you can shove it up in there. I'm a little different than a lot of guys. I like to take my tube. The way I rig it is is I generally, when I am rigging the tube, I generally like to rig it Texas style. Now I'm a little different than everybody else. I'll put my bait in, just right to the barb, and I'll pull it out. Then I'll measure my tube about where I'm going to have to put it through. This seems to let me hook a little bit more fish. As you can see right here, here's about where I'm going to have to put the tube, the hook back in the tube. So I'll mark that right there with my thumb, and I'll go to my little nippers here, and I'll poke me a little hole in there. And not just a little hole, I'll make a little slit there. As you can see, it opens it up. I make the little slit so it's wider than just my hook point is. So then I'll put my tube back in, rig it through there, and then expose it, just like that. Now, whenever I'm setting the hook, instead of the plastic being, you know, fairly rigid through there, it's a little bit smoother for it to, so when I set the hook, for it to go through. So that's one of the tips that I really like to use. When I put my rattle in it, it's nothing more than just, of course, spreading it out. Take my rattle, shove it all the way up in, and then I find my little cut again where I cut my bait, which you can see there's my little slit in the bait. Back through it, back through my hole, and put it out. Now, as you can hear, yeah, there is a little rattle in my tube. Like I said, this is a bait that's worked extremely well for me. I've used it on clear reservoirs, dirty water, cleaner water, stained water. It seems to work just about anywhere that you like to flip. Bushes, grass, stumps, rock. One of the big keys that I do use to it, I do use scent in it. Whatever type of scent you use, of course I just fill my tube up, you know, to make it the scent. And a lot of the oil-based scents really make the tube slick. So if you're flipping in the grass or pitching in the grass or in the sawdust piles, it really makes it slide through really well. So that's my tube set up. I've done it for a long time. Like I said, the history of the tube goes way back before Denny won the Classic. That just happened to be the breakout season. Doug Garrett won the Megabucks the 2 years before, flipping and pitching a tube. There's been several tournaments, one in the Ozarks, and even around here I won tournaments back pitching this thing back in the mid 90s, 93 to 96. You know, so it's been a popular technique for a long time. A lot more popular than when Denny won the Classic. There was a lot of guys fishing a long time before then. So I hope these tips help you. Remember, you can put a rattle in it if the water's dirty. The little slit in the tube really helps. It really helps the hook pop through a lot easier. Make sure your tails are spread out. Rough your tube up. Use the scent. Use the rattle. You know, separate the, you know, have your sliding sinker so it slides your bullet weight so it'll slide if you're fishing in open water. If you're pitching it through the sawdust piles, I recommend pegging it and going to maybe a little bit heavier weight. So that's my tube set up. I'm using it on a 7.5 foot, 7 foot 6 inch flipping stick, medium heavy, 20-pound test fluorocarbon line, and a high-speed reel. Tying it with a snell knot to a wide gap Trokar tube hook and a tungsten weight. So until next time, guys, good fishing.